With the drop of a brand new video of the Tesla bot, many are now realizing just how fast Tesla's moving and how far they've come. Today, we'll talk about how Tesla is now entering a massive new growth wave soon. Several Tesla executives have been promoted, like Ashok Elluswamy is now Vice President of Autopilot, Milan Kovac is now Vice President of Optimus, and Omead Afshar, now Vice President of Manufacturing and Sales. These changes follow major milestones now achieved in Robotaxi, Tesla bot, and several brand new vehicles coming. So we got the bulls here with us today. Tesla boomer mama, the queen, Alexandra Mertz, Xander Sky, the froyo tycoon and options bull. And joining us this week is Larry Goldberg, the golden bull, and Scott Walter, the bot bull. Welcome, guys.
Thanks, Herbert.
Pleasure to be here.
Nice to be here.
Thank you very much. Big topic today, I think, is things are all coming together. And I think that maybe you can tell me, but the promotions kind of show you that the company itself is maturing. The company itself deserves its own promotion. It's getting to that next level of what we're doing. First thing we need to do, though, of course, show the Optimus new demo that dropped. And then we're going to have Scott Walter and everyone else explain why this is such a big deal. Scott, do you want to explain what we're watching here?
Okay, this is the update I was hoping to get a couple of months ago, and clearly was delayed because they wanted it to not to steal the thunder for the 1010 event. And so this is really showing us the state of where they are right now, the improvements they've been making in navigation, which is very important to be able to work in a factory setting where you don't have the advantage of GPS systems like you do outdoors when you're driving around. And also some mysteries like this, like how is the charging going to work and how easy it is. They clearly designed a completely new port for being able to do it. That was, I don't know, maybe it should have been expected rather than using something off the shelf. And again, showing another operation here where it is able to carry a significant payload here. And I pointed out earlier today that the hand strength you need to be able to pull it off is quite a bit because of going underneath. And then, of course, finally, they're showing it going upstairs, something we wanted. That safety right there. Someone does something you're not supposed to, you get scolded, you get the finger wagging right there. And then being able to read body language, which I think FSD is already doing that a little bit because it has to tell whether the intent of a pedestrian, is this pedestrian intending to cross the street or not? And it's doing a really good job now. So it's almost the same kind of behavior that they've figured out how to do for FSD. They're able to do that for the training here as well. So again, the update I've been hoping to get an idea of what they're doing in the manufacturing front seems very bullish. I think one of the other interesting posts that I saw today did not come from Tesla. It actually came from someone defending Tesla's use of telerobotics at the 1010 event that everyone was going on. And this was actually from a competitor saying that you guys who are throwing shade on that and saying you don't understand what the name of the game is. And he actually thought that what Tesla has pulled off, no one else can do right now. The idea of having a robot fleet walking together, coming out in the crowd like that, he said, is extremely difficult and something that no other company would have had the courage to attempt to do that. So again, hats off to Tesla doing it. I think we also probably found out that the bartending demo was probably more supervised telerobotic operation as opposed to, or let's say supervised autonomy as opposed to pure telerobotics, because you're seeing it doing it right here autonomously. So what was the difference? The difference, they needed to have someone in there to be the voice going around there, just making sure everything went right.
The company and the product. I don't look at the quarterly stock movement.
A very realistic bull, questioning certain decisions.
The rational bull. We enjoy listening to bears.
We're looking for the red flags. You're supposed to react.
Yeah, we only earned 50 cents a share the last quarter. I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah. So at the event, the Tesla had the 20 robots walking around freely. And then the criticism was that it was all teleoperated. But if you see here, they could have, if they wanted to, have those doing a lot of things automated. All the walking was certainly automated. This could have been automated. Yeah, this is the
absolutely. You don't teleoperate walking. That's something that's very difficult to do. Maybe you can give a command to go forward, left, and right, but the movement of the legs, that's all having to be done locally. And again, if you command the whole fleet, we've got a destination you want to go to. As they're going down there, they have to decide, is it safe for me to take this next step? Is there an obstacle in the way? Do I have to move left and right? Remember, they're not only people that are getting in the way right now, there are other optimi getting in the way. So it has to navigate that very complex scenario, even though there's a goal. And again, I point that out. It's just like FSD. We tell it where we want it to go. It knows how to go there. It drives on the streets, but every time it drives that street, it's different than before. And there's other cars it has to deal with, pedestrians and everything else. The same idea. You give it a goal. Yeah, we'd like you to go there. Is that teleoperation? Is that not autonomous? Well, maybe it's just kind of supervision saying that's what I desire you to do. But everything happening in between, that is kind of is being done, you could say autonomously, as it has to decide what is the safest and best way to get to that position.
Were you surprised that they tackle already the stairs?
No. I think that's something that I would hope they had done a long time ago. So I'm not surprised to be able to do that. And there will be uneven terrain. Now, the thing is if you want bots in the wild, they have to do uneven terrain, right? That's the reality of the situation. If it's in a factory, it's like mostly everything is level. Every now and then you have some little risers you have to go over, make sure you don't trip over that. And there are going to be stairs. So do you have to deal with an incline in a factory setting? Maybe not. Do you have to deal with like rough gravel or something like that? Hopefully not, depending on what it is. Eventually they'll take those challenges, but I'm sure this is, something that they've been ready, and we know they can do it. There's definitely the strength in those actuators to be able to have the bot go up the stairs, without a doubt.
Any differences in the walking speed that you've noticed? I know
No.
you counted.
No, I went in there. I counted steps again and timed it and everything else, and estimating the size of the stride, which is about a foot, because you can see it's sort of like literally 1 foot in front of another. And the from that, I'm still getting a little over 1 mile per hour, or somewhere around 0.5 to 0.6 meters per second. So it still needs to double the speed to be, let's say, what you would expect to have for a human. Doesn't mean it can't do any work. It just means it's a little bit slower than you would normally expect, because manufacturing engineers use a speed of 1.2 meters per second when they estimate human walking speed in a work environment. A lot of times, yeah, people walk faster than that, but over an 8-hour shift, that's going to be basically the average, and that's what you use. But still, there's a lot of operations where it's probably not that critical that you're able to walk at that speed. You'd be able to do it. And I think over time, they'll be able to get up, because it's not really that high a bar. You need to get to about 2.5 miles per hour. It doesn't have to go 7 miles per hour. It doesn't have to sprint or do anything like that. It just has to get a little bit faster. And I'm sure they'll be able to get there.
Yeah. And they say it was more confident walking. So I think, if I understand it correctly, they're going to try to optimize the confidence of walking, and then they increase the speed.
Yes.
They feel like they've got that going. Julian Ibarz, who's part of the AI team, followed up with that video saying that some updates on our autonomy capabilities in this video. Everything here. Oh, where is it? I missed the killer sentence that says everything is automated. This is all automated. The
autonomous,
walking and charging,
yes.
navigating around humans, carrying a tray, walking upstairs. Scott, walking upstairs is automated. Because you notice that when you watch that video, that part right here, it lost the autonomous label at the top there.
Yeah, that could have just been like an editing error in putting the video together.
Yeah. So everybody thought, oh, that means it's not autonomous, including me. But now Julian just confirmed that even this was autonomous. Wow.
Yeah. And the other thing about the confident walking, the confident walking means, oh, okay, we're ready to display this to the public. To have a dozen of them come out and walk amongst the people. That's the kind of confidence we're talking about. Yes, they were kind of chaperoned a little bit to make sure anything went wrong. And Alexandra, I have to ask you, was that your handbag that knocked over Optimus?
It was not. It was
okay,
not.
just want to find it. We want to find out.
Can you imagine? I mean, I wouldn't show up for a while. No. It was
Boomer
not.
mama.
It was not my bag, but it was my video. I think I had 1.5 million views on my video, where I got completely fooled. I thought the bot talked to me. I was completely in the scene, and then people 5 minutes later told me, no, it's telling. So I was a bit of a letdown, but I mean, it was absolutely fantastic, and I didn't even expect it to talk, right? I just expected it to turn towards us and have certain movements, started dancing, so all that was good. The talking part was sort of completely unexpected, and I think I actually would have preferred they wouldn't have talked. I think it would have taken the whole subject out of it.
Right, it would take it out, but let's just take it like a year or two from now, and an Optimus does show up at a cocktail party, and it is actually, doing it with it. and is that entertaining and is that engaging, would there be any fear factor? I mean, you found it was like
No, I have
kind of
no
fun to
fear
be around it.
factor. No, I
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
it.
yeah,
No
yeah.
problem. I
And-
told him to come back home with me and get learning on the ironing.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Not Herbert.
Exactly.
I can't
But basically, you kind of broke through that barrier of it being sort of intimidating to like, oh, this is actually encouraging, even though it doesn't have a face and it's not showing any emotions. It was very entertaining and almost disarming in a way.
True. True. And actually, I agree with you because, I was so late to the game with FSD. Now I only drive with FSD. I mean, it took me so long, and I have to give a good call out to Oma, who always told me, wait, you're not the right age. You're a woman. You're too prudent on all that. Don't get in too early. And then about 3-4 weeks ago, he said, if you get 12.5.4, get it and it will be good. And he was completely right. Got it. Yeah. Turned it on the button, and no fear factor whatsoever. The first mile, and that was that.
So when you got in the cybercab, were you like afraid that suddenly you're in a vehicle without a steering wheel? Because a lot of people said, "Oh, that
I didn't wait. The waiting line for the cybercab was too long for me, so I didn't wait for that. I've been up since the whole morning and everything, so I wasn't there. But I have to say, the videos I saw of the cybercab, the only difference that I saw, and I think it is because it's version 13, is did you see the resolution of the outside? I mean, it is so much clearer on the pedestrians, what they are wearing. It was very. It is.
Yes.
On my X, of course, you see that there are people, but they're all, shadows. While now you really distinguish them, distinguish the colors.
I think Cybertruck also has that resolution.
Featured already.
Probably less than a.
So that was me. That was my video.
Yeah.
Is this your video? Yeah.
And it didn't occur to me until someone said, Ash, it's like, man, did it scare you going in a car without a steering wheel? And I realized it's because FSD had set us up so much for it. It was like a very natural first step into it. Right. And that's the same thing with the Optimus here is that as you kind of go through this, it starts to knock down those barriers that for a lot of us, when it's really ready to show up at our front door to deliver something, we won't be freaked out. It's
completely agree. And that's actually one of the things, completely agree. And that's one of the things when you have a video that goes viral like that, you obviously touch suddenly people outside of our little bubble. And with 1.5 million views, that was the case. And there were so many, I mean, obviously difficult to estimate, but I would say about half who are like, oh my God, that's not the future I want. I don't want bots. I don't want, the complete barrier of entry. And it's true. Us, we're completely used to it and don't have any hesitation.
Yeah, it felt like
Scott, is that the new hand?
I believe it is, and I think it was confirmed that Milan put in a post that they also unveiled the 22-degree freedom hand. And as you probably know, I'm having a hard time counting them. I keep on coming to 23. But yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely looks like they're two. Yeah, it's amazing.
See, the thing is on the pinky is that everything is where I expect it to be. But if you look at the pinky, there's a crease in the palm that allows the pinky to come over. When you try to touch your thumb to your pinky, you tend to crease your palm a little bit. And it seems like they put it in there. And I was like, well, unless they took another thing out of the pinky, I'm not sure what's going on. I have to just leave for a second. I will be right back. I've got some repairmen doing some important work. I'll be right back.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Well, just to summarize what we saw there, right? So this is a video that they just dropped. This bot can do a lot of the things that you saw at the We Robot event. It could have been done autonomously. And apparently what happened was, Elon wanted all the bots there. And then the team just made a last minute call. Let's do it teleoperated. But you can see it could have handed you, when they handed me the cookies or the drinks. And every time that they did that at the We Robot event, those were all training. This is all the same. The other video that they dropped recently was how everything about the bot, this is the wrong one, sorry. Everything about the bot is basically the same. The batteries, the cameras, and the FSDs, the same that they're using in the cars. That was the case as well.
And it has eyes in the back of its head.
Exactly.
What I really liked was the ability of the bots to share the vision, the picture of the space, the but and so one can imagine the ability of cars to share, share their vision with other cars on other Teslas on the road, or other robotaxis on the road. That I think would be a major plus.
Yeah.
Scott, did they make the pinky longer than a normal pinky?
I think what is all the digits are the same. So it's not that they made it longer, it's that they're the same.
They're the same length. I see.
I don't know how much we can read into what we see here. That's not the final version of it. It may not even be the current version, because I'm trying to wonder why they even brought that in the first place, and whether they brought maybe an earlier prototype to be able to show it off. Maybe that's why there's 23 in there, and later on they decided they don't need it. Again, I could be wrong about the 23 count, because they might be fooling me somewhere else. But if you go through and try to do the math, you come up with 22, because each digit needs 4 degrees of freedom. You've got 3 knuckles, and the knuckle down here can move this way, the abduction and inflection. So you've got 2, 1, 1. That gives you 4 for each. 4 times 5 gives you 20. You throw in the wrist, which is integrated in, it gives you this and gives you this. You're not counting this. That's like something down by the elbow. So it's not really considered part of the hand. And the thing is, when people talk about hands, do you include the wrist or not the wrist? There's all sorts of different definitions. I was assuming that's what they're doing, how you get to the 22 degree of freedom. And if you throw that pinky in there, then that goes ahead and makes it 23. Now, what it could be is that there's some other degree of freedom I don't see in there, and they're not counting the wrist. Okay, so you get it up to 24, take out the wrist, and you're down to 22. So until we know how they are defining each degree of freedom.
Doesn't the hand articulate?
It kind of can. So there might be another one in there. So it could be that's not in there. However, they are integrating the wrist actuators into the forearm. That's very, very clear. Right. When looking at the stack, I put out a post yesterday showing how they made a slight change to the mechanism, because the current mechanism is those big black actuators that we see on the wrist. They actually move around with the wrist. They don't stay stationary with it. So they're moving in the forearm because that's just the way the math works out, what you have to do. They modified it by putting an extra link in there that allows that to be stationary. So now that it's like integrated into that stack and it's solidly in there. The other thing is that I counted at least 16 tendons. Other people have looked at it and also come to a similar count. So it might be a little bit more, a little bit less, but at least 16 tendons. Tendons have 2 ends. Okay. One end is like up here on the thing it's trying to move. The other end is a muscle, right? And that muscle means it's got an actuator. So if you got 16 tendons, you've got 16 actuators. The current one has 6. So they somehow managed to add another 10 actuators in there to give them way more dexterity in the hand. And to do that, you have to get those actuators small. I mean, they're almost like the size of a pen. So something like that, figuring out there, maybe a little bit shorter. So I was impressed on how that movement, and it's definitely a linear actuator that's going up and down, as opposed to something that the tendon is being spun on. So they may have come up with some sort of novel or new type of actuator that they can make so compact to provide the strength. This is something else that I point out with Herbert today on the video of them picking up that tray. The way that tray is being picked up is not a very good way to pick up a tray if you think about it from your own standpoint of how much effort you would have to put into it. Because the fingers didn't go underneath the tray, which would make it a lot easier for you to pick up. Basically, the fingers are pressing on both sides, and your fingertips barely have enough room. You see that right there? Just think about the clench force that has to be going on those fingertips right now. That clench force is also being transferred to the elbow or to your wrist, and then to the elbow, the whole structure. So both hands have to be pushing in. So if you try doing that yourself, you're going to be exhausted. It's going to be basically isometric exercises that you're doing there, because you're kind of pushing on that. So that means that finger's got a lot of power already. Yeah. And so imagine they're going to have the same thing in the new hands as well.
Given what we've seen now, Alexandra, take a look at this. I mean, everything here is now very possible. I thought this was going to be like a vision of the future, maybe 5 years from now, but it's quite possible.
I told you I was ready to take it home. I was good.
Look at all this. This is good. Yeah.
Do you think that they're using that tray on purpose to make it like the hardest possible way to carry something? So that
I don't know. If you look at the opening scene, you'll see Optimus walks by a worker doing the exact same task, and putting them into a very similar tote. So I think it's just whatever the totes that they are using for moving those batteries around. And it must be that the human operators must have to do a similar thing. So as you come around here, you'll see, whoop, going right on down there.
Yeah, the blue one.
Now this is interesting. This is how I thought it always should be. That's on a little dolly that can get pushed around. And that means when they're done, they can get over to the other station, so the human does not have to pick it up and move around. So that thing probably wasn't even designed. Now, the interesting thing is look at the worker is doing it with the same hand, the same way that Optimus is. So you're looking at it, it's like, oh, that's where Optimus learned it. Is literally that is how everyone is taking the batteries off the line with their right hand and putting it down there. But then Optimus, in order to move it, has to lift that tray up. And again, ergonomically, that's not the best way. I would slide it halfway off the table so I could get my hands underneath the thing to then be able to lift it up and walk it over.
Scott, when on site on Thursday, did you look at the feet and what I call the shoes? And I know it's not shoes, but did that surprise you?
No, I mean, you want to get something that is, because I think some of the earlier videos we may have heard where the sound was actually on there, you can hear it going clop, 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 and that's just not going to be a pleasant sound. So you want to do something to deaden the sound, because that's just causing vibration throughout the whole bot. That's not a good thing either. So you want to be able to absorb that. And it was so quiet. I was trying to listen
very
to
quiet.
any noise, and it's like,
Nothing.
I don't hear it walking. I don't hear the motors making like normal actuator kinds of noises or anything like that. It was remarkably silent, and all the movements very, very smooth. So I'm trying to think, we had to look at a picture of the Optimuses that we're seeing there and the one that was announced back in December, and whether there has been like another improvement to the actuators and everything else to kind of look at it. I have a feeling there's still a little bit of, it looks like it, but this might be like almost like a Gen
Is there
2.5.
Is there much tech in the foot, or is most of the tech in the hand?
Oh, well, depends who you talk to. I've got some people that have foot fetishes, and they think, the foot is very complex. Okay. And, they feel you need to do a little bit more. I think it is very important in the walking motion to figure out some way to absorb the energy and to be able to give it back, to have some sort of flex in there. And it seems like there's a little bit, but there needs to be a little bit more. So they are doing basically the heel toe strike. So rather than coming down flat, it's coming down on the heel and it's rolling. And that's the motion you want to have. And ideally, when you do that roll, you want the toe box to kind of flex a little bit. And then as you start to come off, have it kind of give you that energy back. So you get more of this rolling motion. And they may be there. It was a little bit hard to see. I was like more focused on what was going on in the hands and not looking too much down there. But yeah, you want to come up with something that's able to absorb that and make sure your stride is better. And that's an improvement, because if you remember, they showed the evolution of walking 2 years ago at AI Day 2, where they showed it kind of walking, and then it would get a little bit better. And then that suddenly they would unlock the hip and everything else. And then you started to see the heel toe. So at first it was down low and definitely was clop, 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 clop. And then they know over time they'll be able to improve that and have more confidence, which they've talked about, that allows you to unlock the motion in the hips. And so the thing about it is that, Optimus could almost do the catwalk, because Optimus has a great sachet, the way it's walking along there, no doubt about it. And I know a lot of people that are doing like yoga and stuff like that. Wow, the way they unlock the hips. I mean, people do that for years in yoga, is trying to be able to do the same kind of thing. And it's just going ahead and showing it off.
All right. Thank you for that. That was great. I mean, so this is very, very important. The Tesla bot dropped. It's significant. So I think the topic for today is look at all the progress. Not only that we just saw the bot yesterday, we also saw the progress for the actual Robotaxi. We're hearing now that this version 13 it's heading in that direction. And then, of course, there's the new vehicles. I want to talk to you about that as well. So one of the ways to know this is happening is the promotions. Elon has promoted a bunch of lieutenants in the recent weeks. Ashok Elluswamy, now instead of director of autopilot, is now vice president of autopilot and AI. Milan Kovac, used to be director of TeslaBot, is now the vice president of Optimus. And then you also have, where did I go? You also have Omead Afshar, who's now,
Afshar.
So this is very interesting too, of what they're doing with this guy. He is, here we go, because he's now promoted to be the vice president of manufacturing and sales for both North America and Europe. Okay, so why are they promoting everybody? And so this looks like that there's, in my perspective, it means that the bot has progressed significantly, Robotaxi has progressed significantly, and we're about to enter a huge wave in manufacturing and sales of cars. Is this just all coincidence?
I have a question regarding that. Is it possible that those promotions lead to different stock options?
Yes.
Sure. Higher remuneration. Sure.
Yeah.
But also more accountability.
Yeah, just a little bit of color on Kovacs. He's featured in Walter Isaacson's book. I re-listened to the book on the way back in the car, and Kovacs before the first robot unveil, he built a deck and showed the deck, and Elon was extremely tough on him, and he fell apart. I mean, he was ready to resign, and Lars and I wonder who it was. Lars and some other exec talked him out of it and helped him redo the deck and redo the presentation. But he had like PTSD at the second presentation when he had to do the deck, and he brought it up to Elon and said, Elon, last time you were very hard on me about the deck that I did, so I was, worked on this deck. Elon didn't know what he was talking about. Anyway, just shows you Kovacs, he's come a long way. He's come a long way. So I don't know how many VPs there are, but there are not a lot. I think there are probably half a dozen. That's my guess.
And there are less now because there were a couple who left, right? So I think that's also the case. It's not the same positions.
Yeah, it's time. I think it's time to do that page I did about the length of time people have been there. But some of those guys have been there for a while. Anyway,
do you guys think,
and I
Alexandra?
think there's probably also a sense of a job done, next phase coming. I mean, it shows where the priorities are for the next 2-3 years. So,
I came to the conclusion. Yeah, I came to a conclusion that what we're seeing is Tesla's now saying that we've got the two lines of business, the vehicles and energy, but now we're recognizing these other two lines of business are reaching maturity, and I think that's why they're getting their vice presidents, in charge of it, because they see it emerging as real business. So I think that it's serious. It's a serious indicator of a maturing company.
Yeah. It is. It's also, it was one of the questions we asked yesterday, Rohan, which is, if President Trump gets elected and if Elon has a position to increase government efficiency, can he maintain his CEO position at Tesla? And I mean, you should listen to his response because it's much more detailed than what I can resume now. But more or less, he said the best thing would be that he's just an informal advisor and doesn't have a cabinet position or an official advisor position, because first of all, in the official advisor position, he would get very frustrated because government advising is just like thousands of hours of wasted time. And the second point is that obviously as a cabinet position or an official advisor, there could be a lot of conflicts of interest because he would be advising on increasing efficiencies, let's say on how grants are giving or how permitting is structured, that has a direct influence on all of his companies, or at least part of his companies. So his best guess was that it would be an informal position, which would allow him to continue all his other ventures. But we'll see. We'll see how this is going to play out.
Yeah, any official position would require him to resign, and he's not going to resign.
No, he won't.
But I can see. I
Some
mean,
met-
you give him an unofficial position, and it doesn't make any difference whether he's. I mean, it doesn't make any difference to Elon whether he's got an official position or an unofficial position. He'll ride roughshod. I mean, he will make waves. He will make very significant waves.
and he doesn't care what people think about
He
it,
doesn't-
which is just gonna be
he
Elon, right? And that's what we
doesn't
need. But I had a question for you. Call him Omead. I call him Omead, but whatever. Some of you
Well, he
met
calls
him,
himself
right?
Omead. He calls himself Omead.
Okay, because I met him in Austin at the Cybertruck delivery event, just briefly. I mean, shaking hands, and he knew me, and I knew him, and that was that. But young, right?
Yes.
Good-looking young guy. You don't have the feeling this is a 50-year-old, and he's not VP of one of the biggest companies in the world, right? So this is a great achievement at his age. This is really he did well.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how the dynamic between the two of them change, because Elon has a lot of trust in him, a lot.
He worked directly for Elon, right?
Yeah, he worked in the
Office
office
of
of the CEO. Yeah.
Which is like anything he needed him to do. But now he is overseeing manufacturing and sales, not only North America, but Europe as well. So what's going on? Like, where's Tom Ju? Tom Ju is an executive. There's three executive officers.
Tom Ju's focus is Indo-Pac, particularly China, but Indo-Pac in general. That was a change made when Tom went back. China.
Yeah, and he's an executive officer. There's three of them, right? So it's Elon, Vapav, Taneja, CFO, then Tom Ju. Now you've got these lieutenants who've now become vice presidents. But, having somebody's manufacturing sales for North America and Europe, it just feels like that is a setup for expecting a massive new growth wave for a brand new vehicle. And I want to talk about that shortly. But, everything is now lined up, right? Energy, bot, Robotaxi, and brand new vehicles coming.
So I have a quick...
if I may add one last thing, for those that haven't listened to our interview of Rohan, I thought one particular part was also very interesting, where I asked him about his frustrations or not frustrations, given that he had prepared so many international expansions, new gigafactories opening or not. What were his thoughts? Mexico being delayed and all that. And I loved his answer, and I really think it's worth that maybe we do clips about this, Herbert, to be able to recycle them, because he explained it so well. He's not frustrated in any way, but he explained the negotiation power that Tesla has internationally is just enormous, and they play it, and they know how to play it like the fiddler likes to play his fiddle. It's incredible, and it was beautiful to hear him on those subjects. Such a smart guy. I really appreciated the hour we spent with him, and we went into that with a contentious political topic, because that's how it all emerged, and I think we got so much out of it, right, Herbert?
Oh yeah. So Rohan Patel, people don't know, he used to be a top level Tesla executive reporting directly to Elon Musk. He was responsible for business development, so he's the one that is negotiating with the countries to try to set up new manufacturing firms, and also climate and safety. Is it climate also? So
climate and energy.
Climate and energy. So it was great to hear how the company is run. And
the other thing that Rohan did very, very effectively is that he did have a lot of relationships with the retail shareholders, and very supportive of them. Of course, his relationship with government was probably the most important relationship of all, because it led to very direct revenue impact on top and bottom line of Tesla.
I agree. And I told a little episode yesterday, which is when we got that shareholder vote through, and we were in Austin in the entry hall waiting for Elon to come and celebrate with us. I got a text where he texted me, and obviously kept it very preciously. Tesla is very lucky to have you. And I just bursted in tears at that very moment. I mean, come on, this is the just left VP of business development of Tesla, and obviously I was very happy to get that from him. Thanked him yesterday again for it. But that's the type of person he is, right? Why does he doesn't need to send me a text, right? But he knew very well that made me very happy.
I'm from Seattle, so we have the Seattle Seahawks here, and they have a thing called the 12th man, and that's the fans, right? So you have all the players who are very important, and then you have the fans, almost like as if you're 12th man in the team, and that's exactly what Tesla has. You have these incredible executives, and then the fans, the retail shareholders. We act like one, and we can get mobilized and get things happen. You're the queen helping us guide us
That's
through.
how I tell it. I tell it really because I want to point out how close he was and how he knew, to transmit the joy at that very moment, which is, I mean, I love Elon, but Elon is not somebody who in that particular moment would act or would reach out. But I've never spoken to Elon other than
he
what
bowed to you twice.
I know.
Alexandra,
but that's not his type. But Rohan is, and it's appreciated.
Sure.
I will tell you something else about Elon. He would not only not reach out at such a moment, he will never reach out.
Exactly. And I don't wait for it. Don't worry. But the fact that Rohan does touched me.
Rohan is amazing guy. Just an amazing guy. I really admire the man. Great deal.
And I was actually convinced, and we will see, because obviously nothing's done yet, but I think he would play a major role in the Harris administration if Kamala Harris wins the elections. I think he's eyeing the energy secretary position, or at least something very close to it, and he would fully deserve it. So that was always my thought.
I doubt he'd be an energy secretary, but he may be an undersecretary. Energy secretary needs to be somebody with more political visibility. So he's too young.
I agree with you, but I mean, he has the Obama family very close behind him, and what he told us yesterday was just a second. What he told us yesterday was actually really an indicator. We were talking about the fact how bad Elon was treated during the Biden presidency, including the words Mary led. And spontaneously, Rohan told a story that immediately after he heard that, he reached out to the speech writer of Biden.
He called him.
So you know how well he's connected. Yeah. So he knew exactly who was the speech writer who wrote that speech, texted him and said, "Why in the world did you put that in the speech?" And the speechwriter wrote back immediately, "I didn't put that in, he made that up." And then afterwards had a meeting about it and discussed how this came all up and whatever. So he has his hands right in there.
Mm-hmm. All right, those are the executives, right? So we talked about the bot, and of course the Robotaxi is gorgeous. It came out. We all have spent a lot of episodes driving into how it's made. It's safe. It's sort of made for cost effectiveness. This thing's going to sell like caucus. Mm-hmm.
And it's fashioned out of gold.
By the way, Elon is live. While we're recording this, Elon is live on stage, and he's wearing a gold MAGA hat. So he's gone MAGA gold.
MAGA gold. All right. So I wanted to ask you guys this.
Gold.
Right? We're about to do as we're in between two waves, but we're very close to that second wave. So we've seen the Robotaxi here. Now the question is, what did they mean in the earnings call last week when they said that there's going to be more affordable models released, maybe even the end of this year, but could be certainly the first half of next year. And people are pointing this out, right? They're saying this was I think in June of 2024, they showed this and they had these all hidden. Maybe people are saying now that this is the compact car and this was the Robovan. Sorry, this is the Robotaxi and this is the Robovan.
Robocab, so what is this? Right.
Cybercab. Cybercab and
Robovan. Robovan.
I'm not going to call it Robovan. I'm not going to call it the Robovan. It's a Robovan. What is this? Somebody did this, which I thought is interesting. This is high volume. This is low volume. These are the autonomous vehicles. And this could be the Roadster. But what do you guys think? I mean, some people are still believing that this actually could be the more affordable vehicle.
But that's low volume, so.
Well, who knows if that was the correct? Somebody just said that that's one way to do it. Some people said this is the expensive, this is the cheap ones, and these are more expensive ones.
Herbert, this is already outdated.
It is. In what way?
Well, I just, that was then, and so many things happened.
Do you think the Robovan would be high volume if using that?
No, it's not going to be. I mean, it could ultimately be high volume, but I think that it's
not that high a volume, not the same volume as a Y or a 3.
I think I think the Cybertruck's going to end up being a very high volume vehicle.
But if you see down below, this was April 2023, and then you can see that they did based on, remember the master plan part 3. It's like this is how many that would need to solve the problem of sustainable energy. Total, not just Elon, not just Tesla. 300 million of these kinds of vehicles, 700 million of these kinds of vehicles. Right?
Right. And remember, Franz kept on saying there's a vehicle I'm working on that I just can't talk about, and he's really excited about. I assume that he was referring to the Robovan.
No.
So if we have a Robotaxi and we have a Robovan, but we don't have a high volume passenger van, right? Like 8-person or something like that. So when I look at that picture, I always thought it would be like a Sprinter or that type, not a 20-passenger package carrier.
Now, are all the sizes in that image, do you think they're correct? Because if that is the Robovan underneath the covers, it seems a bit small.
Right, exactly. And also the design, like it looks like the hood comes down and slopes, and we don't, like there. See how there's the shadow change there? So I just always thought it would be a...
Yeah. Sorry, no, you're right.
If it's a scale, that would be a little bit bigger if it's the Robovan, but that's really reading between the lines.
Yeah, seriously.
Just like 1 and 3 look like they're identical. It could have just been cut and paste.
It is, yeah.
I wouldn't take all of this, reading of the tea leaves with any degree of seriousness. Company can change its mind on a dime.
Let me ask you then, what are you expecting to happen in the next 3 months and the next 9 months for vehicles?
Expecting or hoping? Expecting or hoping?
Expecting. I don't know if you're very conservative.
I'm expecting the unexpected.
Oh, okay. So you don't think that there's going to be 2 more affordable vehicles happening in the next 3 months or 9 months, next 9 months?
Look, I'm seriously hoping that they will introduce in the first quarter of next year, a hatchback compact car. That's the volume car. That's the 20 million car, thing. I'm somewhat frustrated in the fact that in the belief that it's not going to happen. I may be wrong. I mean, but there's, Elon gave us to understand that it would happen. He didn't announce it at this particular event, which I understand. I get this was a cybercab event, but I'm getting people staring at my van.
You mean the truck?
Yeah, the truck. I mean,
but Larry, a huge group of people are saying that this cybercab, you just put steering wheel and it's gonna be the more affordable vehicle because
absolutely, I believe that. I think it would have to, instead of that long back, that there's a very large amount of space in the back of that vehicle, very large amount of space, and it tapers very, very abruptly. If they tapered it less and put seats in the back and had that as a hatchback, that would be an almost perfect small car.
Because Lars Morvey confirmed that the Cybertruck, you could easily remove the steering wheels and it'll still drive.
Cybertruck, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, were it me, I would be introducing that car ahead of this car. That's just my view. But
yeah, but
I'm not Elon.
If they guided for it in the shareholder deck that 50% capacity, and all the breadcrumbs say that, why would they Osborne the 3 and the Y for the fourth quarter when they're trying to hit the numbers? It just doesn't make any sense. I think it's just like you gotta use a little imagination on can they do that? Can they just?
Well, I don't. You don't Osborne yourself if it's a 2-seater. It could potentially the 25,000 car. It could be a 2-seater.
I don't think it'll be a 2-seater, Scott.
Those seats are slammed back. They're really far back. There's a lot.
And the trunk is huge.
Yeah.
Do you think it'll be a 2-door then? Are they going to change them? So it'll still be the same configuration. Just move those seats forward.
If they change if they change the configuration, I think they'll go for 4 seats because that's the product that sells. Look, it goes to a family that can't afford a larger car. That family's going to have children. It's crazy to make that for a 2-seater. 2-seater for a Robotaxi is like dead on. It is dead on. It's really seriously good, but it's not seriously good for a cheaper car. It's seriously bad for a cheaper car. Yeah. It will not sell.
The problem that people are saying is that this thing is going to, you just add steering wheels. The problem is that this thing's not going to be built until sometime in 2026. Allegedly. So, and it's unboxed. And so the actual vehicles that they're saying that might come out in the next 9 months is actually the same production line. So I don't think it's going to be this. I think it's going to be the Model 3. They're going to change it to a hatchback, reduce the price of that. And that's going to be one example of a more affordable vehicle. They might do something else, and that's a second example, but on the same production line.
I'd buy that.
Yeah. I had a 1989 Ford Probe GL as my first car. It was a hatchback with 2 doors, with manual windows, the old school way, and it had seats in the back. And it was the same kind of shape as the Robotaxi. So it's very possible that they do add 4 seats and do 2 doors.
Xander, how many dozen did they sell of that?
Yeah.
What a
I'm
sitting here trying to remember, like, what car was that?
I mean, guys, what do they sell millions of? What do they sell tens of millions of? Toyota Corolla. Toyota Corolla. I mean, guys, anyway, whatever. I mean, I think by definition, Herbert's probably correct. But the question is whether, Elon's heart is just not in it. I mean, even when he talked about it at the first quarter earnings call, didn't sound like his heart was in it. He said, "Yeah, we'll do that," and it didn't sound like he was convicted. So I may be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Everybody's silent.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I'm trying to think is what the next big events are, because in the last 11 months, we've had the Cybertruck delivery, we had the shareholder meeting, and then we had this event. And what's the next big event that's going to be coming up in the calendar? Besides earnings calls, we have that. But as far as sort of the community coming back together, it probably won't be till the next shareholder meeting, which Tesla could do early in the spring, which they have done before, or it could again be summertime. Or do you think there's going to be something between there to fill that void with some kind of announcement?
Well, a product launch is typically, a product launch stands alone. It comes when the product's ready, and it's not sort of part of any corporate process. So they could do that product launch at any time. And in theory, Herbert's right. They don't want to Osborne the vehicle. They don't want to Osborne the 3. They want to, they want to announce it when it's much closer to production. They'll have to announce it at least 9 months before production. And if they're going to introduce it next year, it's going to have to be announced within the next 3 months, 2 months. So
okay.
We'll see.
And there won't be any special event around the launching of the Y refresh or Juniper.
Maybe it'll happen at the same time.
So by the way, Larry, I've heard people say that this will not take 9 months because it's the same production line, just like the refreshes. You don't even know what's going to happen, and all of a sudden it's there. It doesn't need this particular two vehicles.
The refresh took almost 9 months in the US.
In US.
Remember?
Not China.
Yeah.
Not Shanghai, but yeah.
Well, Shanghai, I think, will have it. We'll have the
Shanghai
Y.
Shanghai doesn't have capacity.
No, don't you think the rumor is true that they will produce a shorter Model Y in Shanghai first?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think so
the
too.
new vehicle. Yeah.
Exactly.
They just launched a 7-seater, in Europe.
In Europe, yeah. The Model Y 7-seater in Europe, yes. Because that existed in the US. That's just the two chairs, the 2 seats in the back.
Yeah.
They have the supply chain for that. That's not a launch. I mean, that's just,
No, but there's a shorter Model Y coming out in China. That's for sure.
That's for sure. Why?
Well, that's what was announced.
And why are they shorter? Any particular reason? Is it parking spaces?
I don't know whether it's subsidies or whatever it is. There's always a reason, isn't there?
Smaller battery pack?
Yeah.
It's price. It's cost.
Price.
All right.
Yeah.
Price.
All right, so we have the huge update on Optimus. You've got a huge update on Robotaxi, and now you've got potentially new vehicles coming out. We just talked about it. We don't know. In about a week from now, we're going to have the earnings call. That's October 23rd. Alexandra, what questions do you want to be asking them? What are you looking forward to there?
Oh, I'm not prepared at all. Thank you for asking me. I have no clue. I have not even looked at the financials yet, and I have not even looked at the say questions yet. So I'm passing on this one. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. This is the first quarter. I haven't read the 10Q yet. Normally I read it on the day it comes out in detail and I mark it up. I haven't even looked at it.
There's so much happening. And the thing is also, I really don't, it doesn't matter, these quarters. I mean, I know it matters to people who are trading the stock on a day-to-day basis, but for me, it doesn't matter. The big stuff is going to happen in 2026, 2027 now. And fine. I mean, if there's something big, I will check the free cash flow. I'll look at where they are, of course. But do I now spend time in trying to nail it down before and then be wrong and be so much more wrong than everybody else, like always? I rather not.
Yeah, they mentioned the 20 cents per mile and the 5 cents per mile during the event. So if more details come out during the earnings call on these topics, and something can be modeled, or if questions on say are asked about it, those are the types of things that I look for that can kind of impact for the short-term gamblers, the stock price. But
I've heard two opposing thinking here. The first one is because of the event, Elon was supposed to have presented the app, was supposed to present the FSD for Tesla Semi, and was supposed to present pricing. And now, because of medical emergencies, so maybe he's going to present it now, the earnings call. And then there's Larry Goldberg, who said, earnings call, they don't do product announcements. That's not where they're going to share this.
And he's right, Larry. And honestly, I don't take it this to medical emergencies. We were all there. Sorry, except for Larry. But
I saw it. Yeah,
yes, of course, the medical emergency happened, but there was no reason for Elon to cut it short. Elon could have spoken 15 more minutes.
I think it was because they had a midnight cutoff, and if they wanted anyone to get cybercab rides, and that's why a lot of people couldn't get a cybercab ride.
Yeah, but I mean, 15 more minutes to present an app and talk about important details were more important than 80% having a cab or 70% having a cab ride.
Yeah, I mean, while I agree with you, I just think like there was time slots. I was in B, and we were
Come
late.
on.
So
Elon is always late. Elon is always late. And if Elon wants to talk, he talks. And if he doesn't want to
Sure.
talk, he doesn't talk, right? There's no fucking reason in my mind that he would stop short because of time. I mean, I do believe he didn't want to be precise, but I don't think it was because of time.
I don't know. I mean, I really appreciated being able to interact with the robots, to go for a ride in a cyber cab, and like that to me was worth more than whatever words that were going to come. But I understand the perspective difference of people from home to and wanting this information. But I think it's really important to show the vision of what the company it actually is moving towards, and not these details. It's really about, I mean, think about what just happened. It's robots and automated vehicles with no steering wheels and pedals. Like, let's get comfortable with that first before we get into the nitty-gritty of it all.
All right, final question for the panel here. Do you guys feel, the way I position this whole show is that Tesla has now entered a new phase, a new growth phase, because you've got milestones hit with Robotaxi, with the bot, with the vehicles. Now you can argue with me and saying, well, actually there's nothing. They just revealed it. Doesn't mean anything. They haven't launched anything. The bot is just a demo. I just saw a video again, nothing really. But we did see 20 and all that. And then the vehicles were still waiting. Or is it, and then you see the executives being promoted. Feels to me that the company's now maturing. And I used Larry Goldberg. I had a video with him and I like the way he positioned it. The company's matured. So let's go through the panel here. Start with you, Larry.
Yeah, I think that there's no doubt that the company's positioning its two very big business units for, a real launch of their business, the FSD on the one hand and the robot on the other hand. I think though that it's not going to be instantaneous. It's not going to happen on the 1st of January next year. I think, exactly like the energy business, they're going to have to earn their spurs, and they have to bring the income and blah, blah, blah. But there's no doubt that that the company is really at a new level in my head. Now, the street's going to take a while to catch up, a long time to catch up. I don't think the street was going to catch up in another year until the actual dollars start to flow. But for me, they've definitely made that step, and I think I see the FSD business and the robotics business about, getting ready to go. I mean, the fact that they rolled out that many robots, humanoid robots, in public to integrate with the public, I mean, to me, that indicates a level of maturity that I was not expecting. The robot has been absent without leave for like quite a few months, and Scott made a remark about that earlier. But rolling them out with such confidence is eye-opening. So yeah, I think the company is definitely at a new level. I think we're seeing the maturing of those two businesses, and I like what I see. That's it.
Yeah, Xander.
I do think that we just witnessed that, the cover of the book that Elon is describing, in that interview during the Madonna and the X takeover. So I'm, since I look at it from the options perspective, my long-term portfolio, I'm okay with. But during this trading time, I'm extremely cautious with buying any calls. Everything is getting closed because I don't know when that moment happens where Wall Street finally says, that it's go time. So that means selling covered calls intraday for me has been okay, but I'm closing them over the night and over the weekend, because I ask myself this question: what if Wall Street or the street moves? They move in before earnings hit the P&Ls. So if that happens, right, and then this wave starts of analyst upgrades, I don't want to lose my shares. So I'm not betting, but buying all these leaps, and I'm just right now mostly in stock, almost all in stock. So I'm just waiting for that moment where the signs are there that we just have like a big short squeeze, big gamma squeeze. And if you don't know what that is, just look that stuff up. But I think we are at this like last shakeout. Can we go to 200, 180, 160? It's all possible, but I think earnings are really important. And then don't forget, we do have the Fed pivot, and we do have the elections coming up. So after those two things, it's once those clear, we'll get a really good perspective. But holding here at 222 or 220 over the last week, it's interesting actually. It's not looking, technically speaking, it's not looking like I'm used to seeing it.
Yeah. Scott, are you seeing a new phase coming?
Yeah, I think this was a seminal moment, but one of those that you won't realize it till later. We are going to see it, but it's one of those things that when things start to go and people decide to write the history, they will go back to that moment and say, that's kind of where this phase began. So it may be obvious to us, but it's probably not obvious to the general public. But it something does feel a little bit different, I would say. It definitely was, you go into the event making some sort of predictions, was Optimus going to be there or not? And if Optimus was going to be there, what was Optimus going to be doing? And it was like, everyone was kind of right and wrong. I mean, they were sort of like, wouldn't it be cool if Optimus is out serving drinks? And Optimus was, but behind a bar, okay? Wasn't going out there and handing it. But at the same time, it was kind of mingling with everyone. I had more of the expectation it was just going to be up on the stage with some demonstrations because they didn't want anyone to get too close. So there were a lot of things that were different than you expected. Fortunately, there were some things that were close to my expectations of what they were going to do. And I think it's more or less because at this point, I kind of understand Tesla and how they do things. So like the Cybercab, some of the design decisions they made in there were exactly what I expected, because that's like, we understand how Tesla moves. And it's like, so we're not surprised. Like, it's going to have two doors, it's going to do this and that. And there's obviously no steering wheel, what they decided to put in and take out. So there's some things that you can predict and other things not, but it definitely felt more mature. And I guess probably the thing that really throws it off, and this might be where you get big growth, because we know like Megapack is like one of those business units that's doing really, really well, because Tesla looked at it and said, there's business there. I did not have the Robovan on my bingo card. I mean, everyone's like expecting a van. You're not expecting that. And I'm still scratching my head trying to figure out what the business use case is. And it's because they are much smarter than I am, and they have researched it. And they just didn't say that, we just want to come up with this Robovan because we want some sort of Art Deco looking train. It's because they see there's a business case there that we don't understand. And that means there is a new business.
Transport of goods. It's transport of goods, not just people.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And it's for the boring company. The number of use cases for that van are very, very extensive. Make no mistake about it.
They're ready to replace short haul, which is like the trains. Because if you can reduce the cost, I think by 30, it's like 30 cents per mile or something like that. If you can get it to that point, you will replace trains and maybe even the short flights of planes,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And buses.
Semis and buses for sure, but even the trains and even the planes.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Volumetrically, that RoboVan.
Guys, I got to drop.
Yeah. We're done.
Thanks,
Alexandra, what's your final thoughts?
Well, I don't really need to say much because all the notes I took, all of you already said. Just the one point I want to make. You said there's a change now. I don't think there's a change now for us who are so close to Tesla and have been watching it. The change started months and even half years and years ago. And this was a change making it more public, but the general public is still not there. And the street will be there in a year or maybe two. Mm-hmm. So I just want to reiterate my warning I said earlier. At the moment, Tesla is a Trump stock. So that I said that before the We Robot Day, and I reiterated even more today. People expecting anything good happening before November 5th should be very cautious. There is a clear, Tesla is actually the biggest stock that is now linked to Trump's name. So that is just a fact, and we have to live with that for the next 3 weeks, and we'll see after that.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody. Larry, Scott, of course, Alexandra and Xander. Appreciate you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Herbert.
Thanks, everyone.
See you soon.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.